falling deeper. I'm falling deeper. Let me out, let me out, let me out, let me go. Now something's missing. I just want my life to change. It all seems the same. I'm feeling caged. I'm tired of breaking down. Let me go now. I've learned my lesson. I'm so numb. I passed the pain. It all seems the same. I need a change from my ordinary.
You know, when you recommend stuff like this, yeah, that's already added to my liked songs.
Legitimately one of my favorite songs.
I can see why.
And a song that has helped me through some very tough times in the past. That is My Ordinary World by the Existentialists, aka the X's, which bring you into the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report.
Sports in black and white.
A presentation of the Not a Network podcast network. I am your host. I am the voice of reason. Allegedly. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Joining me, as per usual, he is the DSDO, the anchorman, the HNIC of the AWP podcast division. He is Erik Watkins.
And I'm one of the two people with fantastic ideas for the NFL offseason. Trust us on that one.
If you haven't listened to the football episode this week on BWSR, make sure you go back and check it out, because the sheer level of ridiculousness and the tribute that is paid to Mike Leach at the tail end of that broadcast, we might have something on our hands here, folks. That's all I'm going to say. We have nothing to shtick but shtick itself, yes?
This is true. This is true. We have a thing for this. I have to find said thing for this.
But what happens when somebody steps on our shtick? Well, usually you have to consult a physician, but that's beside the point.
You know,
segues us into our Aubergine of the week. Man, I set that one up beautifully.
yes, you did.
I'm proud of myself. That may be one of my better segues in show history. Okay, so management not responsible for gimmick infringement, yes?
True. We also have a thing for that.
What about professional wrestling play-by-play commentators?
Yeah, those aren't covered.
I was watching this past week's Monday Night Raw. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge wrestling fan. It is what it is. I'm watching this week's Monday Night Raw, and the Judgment Day make their way out. The Judgment Day is a stable that consists of Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley. Dominic Mysterio is Rey Mysterio Jr.'s son. I don't know if the name Rey Mysterio Jr. means anything to you. Pretty famous luchador. It's been around in wrestling for over 25 years now.
Oh yeah, ringing quite a few bells.
Rhea Ripley is a relatively newcomer to the world of professional wrestling, based out of New Zealand, Australia area there, and who made her way over to the WWE in 2016 as part of the original Mae Young Classic. Rhea now has a very gothic look about her in order to set her apart from your traditional WWE divas or WWE female superstars. As they are walking to the ring, Dominic and Rhea are having a conversation. Kevin Patrick, who is the play-by-play announcer for Monday Night Raw, asks Corey Graves, who is the color analyst, what do you think Rhea's saying to Dom there? To which Corey Graves responds, I can't possibly answer that. There are kids watching. And without missing a beat, Kevin Patrick mutters back the following two words. Family show. You motherfucker.
I mean, credit as far as listening and giving love to the network, but if you're going to infringe on our gimmicks and make it big time, at least give us a shout out, you know? help us grow the network a teeny little bit?
He family showed, and I about broke my television. For that, Mr. Patrick, I hereby award you Aubergine of the Week. This one. There. That. Right down there. Bottom left-hand corner. And from current Aubergine to Aubergine in perpetuity, segue. Mr. Watkins, it appears you won't have someone to kick around much longer as we get to the actual news stories here on BWSR, the All Sports Edition.
You know, I have a little bit of an impromptu song that I wrote about this. Like to hear it go. Bye-bye, Emmert. Bye-bye, Emmert. Bye-bye, Emmert. I love to see you go.
Hold on. I understand that we are getting a text from Jim Cornette's people. They pass along the following message. Thank you. Fuck you. Bye.
Bye.
It appears that Mr. Emmerit's replacement has been named, Eric.
Former Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, long time in politics, may or may not have a history with one of us here at the network. Bit of an interesting story behind that. So with Emmert saying he would not be on any later to the end of June, he is not only fulfilling that, thankfully, but handing Charlie Baker a new job so that way he won't be unemployed for long. Yes, Baker steps into a quagmire of issues that the NCAA is facing, especially with NIL, conference realignment, I mean, you name it. But
the potential breakaway of the Power Five in college football to form their own committees.
Exactly, as the Division I Board of Managers has suggested previously. But when Baker steps into the big chair in Indianapolis come March, well, it's going to be a different kind of madness in his eyes.
Eating on air is not a network podcast exclusive. Sorry, I was mid-snack. Yeah, I don't know if this is necessarily a job that anyone should want. Given the litany, not quite litany, but litany of problems that the NCAA is currently facing here. And the honest answer is that there's no easy solution to any of them.
No.
This almost seems like Emmerit is showing himself the door in order for somebody else to be scapegoated for the problems that are forthcoming.
And it's no coincidence that this timing is going to talk about with another big story that we're going to be covering next week. Again, be prepared for a lot of acronyms, significant acronyms.
And dramatic doggos.
Exactly. Don't think we haven't forgotten.
That'll be next week here on the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report. Realistically speaking here, is there a person that can salvage what the NCAA has become?
I'm going to be blatantly honest. No.
I don't think so either.
This is a kind of thing that really should have happened at least 10 years ago. I mean, if you really want to go back to the first big wave of conference realignment in setting up in the mid-2000s and going into the 2010s, that could have happened then with all of the issues with the BCS, which led into the playoff era. You could have had something then, but the NCAA, they sold their soul, and now this is exactly what they have to reap.
How does the phrase go? You sold your soul, and now the devil's come to collect?
Mm-hmm.
There is an old analogy here, or not an old analogy. There is an old morale here that I think fits. When you lie down with dogs,
you wake up with fleas.
And unfortunately, the NCAA has put itself in this position over the course of a series of actions over the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
The resistance towards the NIL thing and the actual development for collegiate athletes to be able to profit off of their own likeness, which should have been a thing years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The inability to stay in tune with the needs of the current consumer.
Mm-hmm.
We're just now starting to see that expand into greater assets with the innovations such as ESPN Plus and all of the major network sports apps that are out there, Fox Sports app, CBS Sports, all the various sports apps. We're just now starting to see the greater proliferation of widespread access for all of the different sporting events out there. And a college football system that has been wrecked beyond belief for the better part of, the 70s.
I mean, you could make the argument that the first real nail in the coffin was when the College Football Association, which was comprised of your major powerhouse schools at the time, sued the NCAA, accusing them of having a monopoly over television rights. That went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court in 1984 handed down the decision in favor of the CFA. The NCAA has been behind ever since, and they've never felt like catching up. They just thought one day something would happen, somebody else would stumble, and they'd come on and then save the day. That's never happened.
And these colleges and these universities are getting smarter and smarter about how they represent themselves in mainstream media, how they represent themselves to the public, how they are portrayed in the eyes of the public. These colleges and these universities know that they don't want to be viewed as the villains anymore. So when it comes to the name, image, likeness rights that the players have been asking for, the colleges are willing to grant said abilities in addition to taking advantage of them because of a story that we talked about in our Discord with the player that chose Georgia over Ohio State because of the fact that they could make more on the NIL at Georgia than they could at Ohio State.
By a factor of 2.
Which tells me that, and I think my exact comment to you is, then watch what could happen here. Watch the University of Oregon become a powerhouse.
Yeah, and completely agree. Like I said to you there, if Phil Knight doesn't get in his own way, that's a whole ass other story.
But having a booster with the kind of backing that Nike does, there's absolutely no reason that Oregon shouldn't become a major player in this name, image, likeness world that's become the NCAA.
Completely agree, and especially now that you're seeing everything done public and above board of what's happened ever since the 80s. You look at what happened with SMU and eventually getting the death penalty. You look at Miami with Nevin Shapiro. All of this stuff, it's understood but never could be spoken. Now it could be spoken and it's being shouted from the rooftops.
Look at what's coming, what is it, fall of 2023 as well, the return of NCAA football for the major video game systems.
I actually heard a recent announcement. I believe that's being delayed to fall of 2024.
Well, I know the original plan date was 2023, but instead of having to edit these teams into Madden, like a lot of devout college football fans have been having to do, they'll now have open access to a legitimate licensed college football game that the universities can profit off of based on the sales through EA Sports, that the players themselves can profit off of by having their likenesses rendered inside of the video game itself. And that the NCAA is probably going to get fucked out of the rights for because they're not going to be quick enough to jump onto the ball to get a portion of these proceeds.
And can I make a quick plea to EA? Listen to your fans, and most importantly, those that are your consumers. Do not use the Madden engine. If you look at the last couple of editions of Madden, reception has been, in a utopian way to say it, tepid. Go read the reviews and everything. You'll understand what I mean.
Did you know the 1-point safety is possible in Madden?
I've heard about that. Yes. Boy,
I watched.
You would have to.
I watched a video on YouTube with Yo Boy Pizza. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He does like a lot of sports content, on YouTube, and I watched a video, and one of the things he did was Madden Mythbusters. And one of the myths that was posed was, is the 1-point safety possible on that? And apparently it's possible in both directions.
Really?
What I mean is the offense could score the 1-point safety, or the defense could score the 1-point safety.
Huh.
I'll send you the link to the video in question once we get off the air, if I can find it in my watch history.
Definitely, because I'm curious. I know how it would be going in one direction. I gotta see how it would be possibly the other direction. Fascinating.
One of the other ones that they tested in the video was, can you hit all 3 uprights with a field goal attempt in Madden?
Ah, so playing the triple doink game.
Or as we call it in soccer, 3-bar. Also 3 pole in hockey as well. I guess technically in hockey it would be 3-bar as well, wouldn't it?
It is.
Because you got the left and the right side of the crossbar, and then the center bar.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so yeah, look for things to get worse before they get better with the NCAA. And the question is does the new leader of the NCAA realize what he's getting himself into? I suppose the answer to that is time will tell.
Definitely to be determined. And with the Olympics coming up on U.S. soil in a mere less than 6 years' time, a lot of eyes are going to be focused on not just your big money makers, but a lot of your Olympic sports in the NCAA as well. There's potential for quite a few reckonings.
And quite a few more stories like that swimmer from San Jose State.
Mm-hmm.
Outkick.com or outkicksports.com. You'll thank me later. With that, we move forward to our second news story. Erik, this particular news story is brought to you by Bovada.lv. Just remember, folks, before we even get started on this, 21 means 21.
God damn it!
Obey all local, state, and federal gambling laws. Please gamble responsibly. If you or anyone you know have an issue, please call the number scrolling across on your screen right now, 1-800-522-4700. Meanwhile, you can also choose to join us and place your friendly wagers at Bovada.lv. Erik, tell them more.
I mean, first of all, we've got a lot of big NFL games coming up. It's crunch time. For those of you who also like to pull a Floyd Mayweather, bet on the first half of NBA games. You're getting into full swing. You've got hockey season. We're going to be talking about later on the World Cup. You got your third place match and what some have as their dream final. I mean, come on. Anything from esports, traditional sports, all around the map. You've got fantastic futures bets, prop bets, even casino games if those are your thing. Head on to Bovada.lv. They've got great offers for placing your first bets, especially if, although Sam Bankman-Fried would probably hate to say this, but if you go ahead and still work with Bitcoin, Bovada will hook you up. Bovada.lv, hashtag bet on Bovada.
That's the FTX douchebag, right?
Mm-hmm. Who copped not one, not two, but 8 different charges the other day.
Much the same way as we said to Mark Emmert. Thank you. Fuck
you. Bye.
Please. So when you told me about this story, I actually hadn't heard about this. So I went on the Google, as it were, and I found the story on one of the Arizona newspaper websites.
Mm-hmm.
And man, if we thought that course was a party atmosphere before, apparently we're about to get the first recognized sports book on a golf course.
And I mean,
and where else would it be but TPC Scottsdale in Scottsdale, Arizona? Do you know why I say where else, Erik? Because we talked about this off air. It is the course that is famous for the 16th arena hole, where golf fans are not only allowed to make noise, they're encouraged to do so. What kind of XFL golf is going on over there?
Now, keep in mind, we have a saying for this. If you thought that kind of atmosphere was interesting, Oh, don't tell
Ron
me.
Pompeo. He's in here.
Yeah, I'm
Wait.
looking.
But
Ron
wait,
Pompeo.
there's more.
Not only is
Rest in peace, Ron.
Mm. Not only is this going to be a full-fledged sports book, they're sponsored by DraftKings. Bravato's better, but we're not going to talk about that right now. You're going to have 7 betting windows. It's going to be, if I read right, like 40 different suites, a bar. So
Seating for 320 inside.
So not only are you going to have people screaming off of the top of their lungs as is, add in people with a little bit of stake in the game and a little bit of spirits flowing in their systems.
Oh my God. I just realized something. You could bet on whether or not there'll be a hole-in-one on the 16th and then go over to the 16th and yell at them, "Get a hole-in-one, you motherfuckers!"
Pretty much. I mean, it's just like how they treated with Phil Mickelson, giving him tips, like right there. Take it over. It's like now you just say, yeah, it hit.
Don't join the Saudi League.
Not too late for that one.
Yeah, the ship has sailed. Speaking of which, did you see that they added 3 more U.S. dates for their 2023 schedule?
Yes. Not only do they have their whole invitational and sort of a setting up for a qualifying system, they have an entire Live Golf League expanding to the 14 tournaments ahead of schedule, adding the 3 U.S. states. And instead of your different 48 people for each course, the same 48 throughout the entirety of the season. Personally, I am a fan of this. And when you have the likes of Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy saying, if guys like Greg Norman go, we'll be able to sit down and talk with coexistence with the PGA Tour, people are going to listen.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing here is this gives the players, and we're kind of going off on a mini tangent here, but it gives the players more options in terms of golf because the PGA Tour has been more or less a monopoly when it comes to the world of professional golf, at least here in the United States. Maybe not so much internationally because of the success of the European Tour overseas and such, but at least domestically here in the U.S., the PGA Tour is a monopoly unless you want to play on your mom and pop circuits, which you're not going to make anything doing.
Exactly.
Live Golf is going to force the PGA Tour to A, up their purses, B, put out a more competitive product, and C, have to take aim step in step with the changes to the world of golf as well, that more advantages towards tougher courses or more advantages towards better players.
But tougher courses, better players, better presentations overall. I mean, as much as I used to love watching the PGA Tour, I watched a lot of Live Golf tournaments, and the fact that, wow, everything in real time, more instant highlights, the fact that everybody's on the course at once, so I get to wrap up coverage of a whole round in 5 hours, helps me tremendously.
Because don't they do 1 and 9 for all 4 days?
Shotgun starts. You have threesomes starting on each different hole on the course at the same time. Blow the horn, everybody goes off.
Well, I guess technically that could work, although you would have different people finishing holes in different times because of the par 3 compared to a par 5 or what have you.
Oh, yeah. And they do adjust it for the final round to where the top 6 in contention start at the first tee. So that way you have an increasing likelihood of the tournament winning shot being on 18.
Interesting situation there. I'll have to watch more Live Golf there. I'll be honest, I didn't watch a ton this past season. I caught a little bit here and there. And speaking of golf, the match comes back on Saturday night as well. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
I did. We talked about it, and I'm like, it's not the same.
You're losing one of your marquee players in Mickelson. And last year you had the added bonus of of Allen and Tom Brady involved. This year, I think it's just 4 PGA golfers, is it not?
It is. And it's like, it's the timing is okay because it's being a Saturday and everything, but it's just like, I I can look at something else, especially with NFL football being on.
An NFL triple header, college bowl season starting, both of which we talked about over on the football edition of BWSR this week. So, obviously, with the gambling started, we had to bring it here. The fact that it's at TPC Scottsdale makes it even that much bigger of a story because of the rowdy nature of that tournament to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very interesting concept to go there. I wouldn't be surprised to see golf courses in cities such as Vegas, such as Chicago, such as other states that allow Florida with Miami, other states that allow sports betting to happen. I wouldn't be surprised to see those kind of places open up potential, if not full-on gambling stations, like the whole restaurant style sports book that they're putting in Scottsdale. At least the opportunity to place real-time wagers at those golf courses.
I'm telling you right now, the minute we finally get our shit together here in Florida and allow full in-depth sports gambling and sports books, don't sit here and tell me they will not make a beeline to TPC Sawgrass. That's one of the first to get it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so again, we'll have to wait and see. I believe they said it'll be ready for fall of this year, if I remember reading correctly.
I will go back.
I think I saw fall of 2023. It might be earlier. I might be incorrect there, but I do believe I saw fall of 2023.
From what I'm seeing so they're saying definitely 2024. So that will be fall of 2023. So by the time the tournament rolls around to Scottsdale in 2024, that'll be the first time it will really be in action with that tournament.
And the sports book is supposedly being built literally across the street from the 18th hole of the stadium course.
Prime location.
Absolutely. All right, let's move forward, shall we?
Let's.
All right, why don't you take this one, Mr. Watkins?
So, are we going with the Netflix and their burgeoning library? Because
that's why I had you take this one, because then we go into the soccer.
Because we had mentioned
Netflix, baseball, soccer.
Yep. We had mentioned this off air when we were talking about The Last Dance, which fantastic documentary series. Watch it if you can. Available on ESPN Plus and Netflix.
Uncensored on both.
And trust me, you'll want the uncensored.
Just a friendly heads up. If you do watch it, you have small children, maybe don't watch it with small children around. Viewer discretion, point of viewer discretion even, is advised.
As Dave Chappelle would say, better not bring your kids. But I digress. So Netflix.
I apologize for cutting you off, but I am being told, fuck them kids.
Gimmick infringement discretion clearly non-existent. I mean, we have a thing, and I can definitely say this, because we here at management are not responsible for gimmick infringement at the Not a Network Podcast Network.
You can go ahead and erase management and put staff above that as well.
Well, as a matter of fact, I can go ahead. But as I do this, we were talking about The Last Dance, and I had even mentioned some other sports documentaries that were around during the pandemic on a variety of services, making their mark on Amazon or Prime Video about Australian football. Sunderland Until We Die on Netflix. You had another one about the New Zealand All Blacks or rugby team. So, a lot of things to do to kill time, especially then. So Netflix decided, you know what? There's definitely more money to be made here. So the announcement came today that they are expanding into the genre of sports documentaries. One main one that they're featuring is Breakpoint, delving into the world of tennis. Network ownership sadly responsible for gimmick infringement. I mean, again, not wrong.
I have 3 simple words as to why this is a good idea for Netflix. 30 for 30. Look at the success of the ESPN franchise with the 30 for 30 films, which were basically mini sports documentaries in and of themselves, traditionally no more than 2 hours, some of which only a half an hour to an hour long, almost all of which available on the ESPN Plus archive like we talked about before.
Plus, they expanded into a separate series with a 30 for 30 podcasts.
Think about how successful and how well of ratings that those did for their cable premieres as well. A cable premiere in a dying medium such as cable, where viewership has gone down over and over and over and over the course of the last couple of years, due towards more people jumping towards streaming, more people jumping towards video on demand, more people jumping towards digital media as well. The point of all of this being is that these successful variations of these documentaries that ESPN put out through their 30 for 30 franchise tells me that there is definitely a marketplace for the sports fan that will take the time and be it watch one episode at a time if it's a specific documentary, or like it was with The Last Dance, where it was a series of 10 episodes over the course of 10 weeks when it originally aired, or over the course of 5 weeks when it was originally aired, because it was 2 episodes a night times for 5 Sundays in a row. There's a section of the sports audience that will sit and will watch these, be them individually or be them binge content. So you're going to get the minutes watched, and if you're going to the Netflix viewers that have the advertisements, that have the ads involved, then you'll be able to sell prime market real estate on those ad services during the course of those sports documentaries. You'll be able to sell prime advertising real estate on the replays of those documentaries even after they premiere, even if it's backlogged. Because the thing about documentaries, the thing about sports-specific documentaries is depending on the topic that you're covering, there's always going to be new people and new fans of whatever it is that you happen to be covering that'll go back and see, oh, there was a thing about the 98 Chicago Bulls here. Man, I should really watch this. Those Bulls were incredible. To the people that lived through watching those Bulls live and in real time, to the people that were involved with those Bulls back in real time. But you'll have a subset of audiences that'll be interested in it throughout in perpetuity, like we were saying.
Yeah, and the beauty of these particular sets of topics being, in some cases, completely evergreen and others close to it, incredible to take advantage of, because as you said, even though if you get that churn, there's always going to be some audience available, new eyes in front of the screen. And for Netflix in particular, because of their hike in subscription prices, because of bringing back the plans for their ads, because of people turning away from Netflix as a whole, because of the uber competitive streaming market, which is going to get even more so now with different mergers and other things going on.
The pending HBO Max Discovery Plus merger being foremost among those as well.
Exactly. So soon to be just Max, which I'm going to have to see how that'll affect me since I have both services, and maybe that'll save me a few bucks a month. But with all of these things going on, you want to have something that makes you stand out. Plus, it is widely known that when Netflix started their run for making original content, they were the leaders in how much they spent to make that happen. They were first. Now everybody else has left them in the dust. So if you're not going to have the capital or not going to spend the capital, spend it smart. This is your absolute best move.
Especially since a lot of this stuff right here, you can make pretty much dirt cheap if you really want to. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it for the sake of visual presentation, but it is a viable option if you decide to go that way. Depending on the topic at hand would probably depend on how much money you would want to put into said topic. But whether or not you're going to be able to access the specific videos and the specific imagery and stuff that you would need for these particular documentaries will depend on how much you're willing to spend in terms of who owns the digital media rights to it.
Yeah, I mean, you compare, and I know this is on one extreme end, but like $1 billion for Rings of Power on Amazon, you could take what, 10, 15 million, a budget for what would be an above size like independent film or even a small sort of like B movie or what have you. That 10 to 15 million would land you a great sports documentary. And if you want to add a little bit more for certain things, you can build from there. But you start on a much lower ground floor than you would for any other kind of original content like you're pumping out now.
And look at how much most of these sitcom actors, most of these drama actors get per episode. With this particular format, with doing the documentaries, you would be changing the people involved on all different documentaries. So you wouldn't have to sign anybody to long-term deals for it. So you would be able to save based on the pay per appearance, as it were.
Precisely.
I mean, it's similar to WWE Network as well. And I kind of, like I've said before, as a wrestling fan, I kind of relate a lot of stuff back there. One of the primary things that the WWE did once they launched the WWE Network is they created their own series of documentaries as well on WWE Network. WWE 365, which followed a specific wrestler over the course of a calendar year of their career. And WWE 24/7, which was about specific events or specific situations. And both of those particular documentary series were hugely popular for the WWE Network, as well as their documentary series that focused on the grassroots of the developmental territory known as NXT, called Breaking Ground, which did incredibly good numbers for WWE Network as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we can even turn to HBO. What they do with their monthly feature, Real Sports, Off the Record with Bob Costas, everybody's favorite Hard Knocks, which they just expanded to in season as well.
In season with the Arizona Cardinals this year. Real Sports, is that still Greg Gumbel?
Bryant Gumbel, yeah.
Bryant Gumbel, sorry. Greg's brother.
Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned Hard Knocks there. The hugely popular off-season training camp program ended up getting an in-season spinoff this year for the first time with Arizona.
Second.
Oh, this is the second?
Yeah, last year they covered Indianapolis in season. Look at how that turned out.
I'll be curious to see what happens with the Kyler Murray injury this week on Hard Knocks in season. 2% warning. Got to plug in.
So Netflix, you could have done it a little sooner, but better late than never. And there's still plenty of content out there, and you're already making the best moves. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah,
if this helps save Netflix.
I feel like the sports programming is actually the smart way to go here, because of the media rights to like the old TV shows and stuff would be significantly more expensive than getting old footage from sporting events. Because a lot of like newspaper stuff and coverage and stuff is considered what's the term for it? When something becomes common.
I know exactly.
Public domain.
Yeah, public domain. Thank you. Because I was originally thinking fair use, and I'm like, no, that's not it.
After a certain length of time, things become public domain. And like if you're covering older sporting events, like say Jesse Owens in the 1936 Berlin Olympics.
Yeah, or the stories coming out from the protests, both in Mexico City '68 and in Berlin in '72. As you have those big stories are coming out in the news again.
Didn't they just have a documentary about the '72 Berlin Olympics? Because was that the one with the terrorist hostage?
Yes, that was the one with the attack. And now one of the U.S. athletes who was originally banned after protesting right after those attacks at the '72 games, his ban was just lifted 50 years later.
The Black Power ban?
Okay,
I remember that.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's plenty, and you want to talk about the opportunity for human interest stories? Look no further than sports, right? There is a litany, and there's that word again, but there is a litany of human interest stories when it comes to... What was it that we used to say for the Olympics? Tragedy porn?
Yes.
It's pretty much, you're looking at an entire world of it when it comes to the world of professional sports. How you take these sob stories and you turn them into these documentaries, or you take these sad stories with the happy endings and you turn them into documentaries, and you can pump out content Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom,
Or
boom.
even great stuff like no one even would really know about, like Jaromir Jagr going ahead and being player owner at his club in the Czech Republic again, skating and getting 2 assists in a game at the age of 50. Bam! That right there.
I will tie this into pro wrestling once again. Although in this particular instance, it would be pro wrestling from the amateur sense. Kurt Angle, 1996 United States Olympic gold medalist. Wrestling fans obviously know this. Maybe traditional fans don't. When Angle won the Olympic gold in 1996, he did so with a broken neck. Legitimately, he broke his neck at the U.S. Olympic qualifying, and still won Olympic gold.
And then we coming in with Andesian. Fun fact, Real Sports did a segment about 9 years ago on a very fledgling League Championship Series going into esports and League of Legends. And you want to talk about another booming business now. You can do traditional sports. You can do esports.
And has Andesian seen the Paramount Plus mockumentary on esports?
I would safely bet yes. But yeah, definitely, if he wants to chime in about that one, because I feel like we've talked about it.
Well, I'll put that out to him right now because I know he's listening and watching along. So I figured I'd put that out to him now. But if he hasn't, there's another one that's currently on, even though it's more of a mockumentary than a documentary at this point. But you could still, and you could do almost that style as well too. Historical reenactments.
Yeah,
because sporting events and stuff.
Yeah, because look at how you have things on Comedy Central did a great run with like drunk history and all this and that. You could do it more legitimately and be like a secret base, Bleacher Report, and all that. Dove right in that realm. It was also announced at the Esports Awards on Tuesday night. It's also available for free on YouTube. That very same mockumentary you were talking about.
All right,
there you go.
There's my answer there. All right. So yeah, if there is a market to tap into, the sports documentary market is one that was prime for the picking, and one that I think that Netflix will do very well to take seriously, while at the same time not taking themselves too seriously and basically stuffing it up.
Exactly. Netflix, look at what you do with shows like Big Mouth. Look at what you've done with Bullshit the Game Show. You know how to do something right if you put your mind to it. Put your mind to this.
Do you remember I Love the 80s on VH1?
Mm-hmm.
I love the 80s. I love the 90s. You could do something similar to that with a sporting event as well. Get a bunch of talking heads to talk about a specific moment in time. Those who were involved, those who remember watching as kids, those who have looked back on it through a historical perspective. It could be its own spin-off series or its own sub-series as well within that sports documentary genre.
Of course, and you can get it for a wide variety of sports. ESPN Cricket Info does it in print form of like all-time test matches. They interviewed everyone who was there, talking about what led up to it and this and that. Bam, put that on TV. You introduce yourself to a whole new audience. So, we talk about new things. We've talked about a lot of changes. For what's going on, NFL in season, NBA in season, NHL in season, there's the one sport of the big four that's not in season. Major League Baseball. But
it's in winter stove season.
And this is exactly what I'm saying. The only one that has a name for their off season as it heats up now, the hot stove. And let me tell you, if there's anything about the hot stove, it takes a lot of money to be able to run it. And you got a couple of more teams splashing quite a bit more cash for a couple of big name players today. Boy, did I get into the wrong business.
6 years, $162 million. Welcome to New York, the American side, Carlos Rodon.
And let me say this with the Rodon, because I was texting with Rainey about this, as he had mentioned. Garrett Cole, Rodon, Nasty Nestor, and they have Sevi and Montas as their pitching rotation.
He sent me the same message.
I flat out told him, we'll still take 8 games off of you guys this season, my Rays. We'll find a way to do it, so he better not get his hopes up too high.
Well, when we spoke about it, the thing that I said to him is it's an impressive signing there, and something that obviously the Yankees could always use more of as starting pitching. And then he said that that's something that every team could use more of, to which my counterpoint to that was, no, in Atlanta, we just need him to stay healthy.
Pretty much.
Because with Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Spencer Strider, who's coming off finishing second in the Rookie of the Year voting, the only thing the Braves really need next season in order to solidify our starting rotation is Mike Soroka to make his return from Tommy John surgery.
Oh, boy, my Rays. It'll be nice if we keep this up, if we wind up getting that new domed stadium that they're pitching, but part of me has hope, and then I realize Kevin Kiermaier's in Toronto now.
The other thing with Rodon, or Rodon, however you want to pronounce it, Rodon, going to New York as well, is it's a sign that the arms race is continuing in Major League Baseball as well. However, on the other side of the equation, though, you're still seeing some big-name bats getting some big-name contracts as well here. And the defending World Series champion, Houston Astros, one of their former players who ended up in Minnesota for a season, has once again found himself with a new residency as well, Eric.
Yeah, so you have one giant leaving San Francisco, another becoming a San Francisco giant in Carlos Correa. 11 years, $350 million. To me, and I'm still going to say this, I get the numbers. Dear Lord, Los Angeles, I don't know if they're going to have to take out some kind of like mega loan or something to be able to pay Ohtani at this rate. And you have some teams that have never learned from these super long-term contracts.
Shinjiro Ohtani will not be an Angel once his contract expires. Period. Point blank. The Angels will not pay him. And my guess is the Angels aren't going to pay Mike Trout either.
Well, I mean, they're already in the midst of paying Mike Trout, so.
But I'm guessing they're probably going to try to get him to rework his deal and maybe take more of like a back payment situation like we saw with the Bobby Bonilla contract.
Yeah, get a deferred deal. Go ahead and get yourself a check until 2060, 2070.
You mentioned the Carlos Correa deal, and you saw me looking off into the distance. That was me waving goodbye to Dansby Swanson. Because I don't think the Braves are going to be able to pay Dansby what he's capable of getting in this free agent market this year.
Welcome to the world of being a Rays fan. We felt the pain for the first time with Evan Longoria. We will continue to feel it many, many times over.
Well, okay, so the only thing is not necessarily are the Braves sellers, though, because look what just happened for the Braves battery. Our all-star catcher, William Contreras, is no longer a Brave. Traded to Milwaukee as part of a 3-team deal, which brings Oakland Athletics catcher Sean Murray, who was widely considered to be the best catcher available in this offseason, to Atlanta.
Yeah, I've had a few people tweet out that with that Wilson Contreras trade, Milwaukee fleeced everybody else. I'm not going to go that far.
Wilson's the former Cub, who's now a St. Louis Cardinal.
Oh, I thought it was... Anyways.
Wilson was the Cub. William was the Brave.
Okay.
I made that same mistake earlier today. That's how I know that.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
At least you don't have to worry about which Molina brother is catching where.
I believe all of them are retired now.
Yeah, all of them are, although it was kind of sad to see that Wainwright signed on a little more, so Wainwright and Molina can't go into the Hall of Fame together.
We had that conversation when Wainwright announced he was coming back for one more season, and I was curious as to what kind of status Wainwright would have without Yachty as his catcher. But now him getting Wilson Contreras, I think that's kind of basically it's almost more or less a defensive switch person for person there. I'd say Yachty's a better bat than Contreras is, but when it comes to defensively, Contreras is just as good as Molina.
Oh, yeah. And especially with Yachty being a little bit older, you could tell the bat was fading a bit. So with that, you can definitely work on retool the lineup a bit more. Figure that out in spring training.
I saw the projected Braves lineup with Dansby Swanson and without Dansby Swanson. And obviously, as a Braves fan, I would prefer to bring Dansbaum back. However, I'm realistic as well. If we were going to re-sign Dansby, we would have done it already. Because if you look at the last couple of off seasons, Ozzie Albies went into an off season as a free agent. Ozzie Albies didn't make it to December as a free agent. He was signed. Ronald Acuna Jr. went into an off season as a free agent. Ronald Acuna Jr. didn't make it to December before he was signed. The fact that Dansby Swanson is still a free agent tells me that the likelihood of him coming back to Atlanta is slim. Personally, for a fact, Swanson's one of my favorite Braves. Just because of how clutch he came up in the 2021 postseason run that led to the World Series title. So I'll always have a special place for Dansby. I hope he remains a Brave, but if he doesn't, then much the same way I did for Freddie, I will wish him the best wherever he goes.
Of course.
As long as he doesn't become a Met.
I mean, you've got the whole Steve Cohen tax, as they've dubbed it in Major League Baseball for the Mets. I don't know if he's going to be willing to pay that much more than what he is now, because you're already talking in the $500 million range for that payroll.
Well, yeah, look at them just signing Verlander this offseason, too. But they did lose DeGrom, so I guess it's kind of a one-for-one trade there, Verlander for DeGrom.
Hopefully Verlander can stay healthy up there. And again, Kate Upton, New York Fashion Week, I'm just saying. Now, see, I don't know if it was intentionally done that way to freeze up like that, or if I just got comedic timing from your internet.
My internet died. However, what I was going to say was Kate Upton, Sports Illustrated swimsuit body paint issue. Wait, what, huh? Sorry, I got distracted for a second. I'm back. By the way, Erik, America. Or as the Parker Stone movie would tell you, America. Fuck yeah. All right.
That is going to be stuck in my head the rest of the night, but I'm willing to live with that.
Team America World Police, if you haven't seen it, be forewarned. It is Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Let that temper your expectations.
You'll never see marionettes the same way again.
Big facts. As a matter of fact, as the kids would say, all facts, no printer.
All right. So,
shall we see how badly we can fuck this World Cup up for a third time?
I mean, I'm prepared to not be able to ever go into the city of Buenos Aires for the rest of my life. So, yeah, let's do it.
Well, I mean, I technically had Argentina here, so I guess I win, kind of?
Kind of. Wait, which one? That's the big question.
I believe the answer is both at this point. But anyways, so what I was going to say is we finally reached the championship and third place game for the 2022 World Cup. Your third place game sees Cinderella story Morocco with the best finish ever for an African nation guaranteed, as they were the first to make it to the semifinals. Bing!
Oh, hold on, as I had to get that comment. Oh, apparently it's just you because you were not on fleek. And of course, that loop button always gets us. And yes, I said us because I'm not the only one.
Anywho, Morocco will take on
Croatia.
Thank you. I almost said Belgium, and then I remembered they lost in the round of 16. And then you would get mad at me for that.
Mutter. Waffles, Red Devils, mutter. Anyway,
it is kind of interesting to see both the champion and the second place team from the last World Cup back in the semifinals this year, and the potential for a rematch was there, but it didn't end up happening. It's only one of the two won, the other lost.
And the fact you have to give all credit to a team like Croatia. Luka Modric, well into his 30s, still lighting it up and really pushing the midfield for that team. But you had to think that it was going to come to an end. And really, the first 30 minutes told the tale. Messi with the penalty, Argentina clamoring, just crashing inside the 18-yard box to get their opportunities.
Yeah, Messi with the penalty in the 35th minute, and then Alvarez in the 39th, just 4 minutes later, making it 2-0.
Mm-hmm. Wound up ending 3-0, and you could tell Croatia was just like, we've hit our ceiling.
See, I think Croatia had their World Cup moment already, though, when they beat Brazil in the quarterfinals.
Fucking penalties.
Marquinhos hitting the far post on his PK that officially ended the match. I mean, how do you think I feel? My team went out in the round of 16 to fucking Morocco.
Well, I mean, it was Morocco again, quasi home field, Arab world. They played in the Arab Cup a year prior, so they know the deal.
And that actually leads me to my prediction for this third place game. And I think we talked about this off air. Both of us are taking Morocco here.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm taking Morocco specifically is because I think Croatia is disappointed to be in the third place game. Whereas I feel like Morocco is ecstatic to have made it this far because most people, myself included, had them out to Spain in the round of 16.
Yeah, I had Morocco bowing out in the quarterfinals.
To Portugal.
Yeah. Anyway, for me, with all of this, they're playing with house money, stadium that they've been in, area that they're familiar with, and more importantly, defense. They have one of the best, I believe the best defensive record. You do not score on these guys. And I don't think Croatia is going to create enough. I mean, you maybe get extra time if their keeper stands on his head again, but
Szczesny?
Yes.
The Croatian keeper? The one that was super dominant against Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only team to beat Morocco in the run of play is France in the semifinals. I don't think anybody scored on Croatia or Morocco during the run of play throughout the entire tournament. The only goal that was scored on them in the group stage was an own goal.
Mm-hmm. So
if I recall seeing that correctly.
Yeah, so the only way that happens, but I think Morocco will conjure just enough. They may add another one late, so this may end up being a 2-0 win, but 1-0 wouldn't surprise me, and boy, are you going to be hearing all of the ruckusness from North Africa.
It'll be interesting to see if the African countries can follow up this in 2026, and the reason I say that is you had the decided home field advantage this time.
Mm-hmm.
Even with it being technically it would be considered Asia.
Technically West Asia, more like the Arabian Gulf is the official name for that part of the world.
But if we're talking actual continent wise, it would be considered Asia.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And within their general time zone area as well, maybe an hour or so ahead or behind. I'm not sure geographically exactly where, but
2 hours ahead because they are farther to the east.
So they're closer to us than Qatar is.
Yes.
But now you look at that compared to the 2026 World Cup, which comes back to the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. You're going to be 6 hours earlier than what you're used to.
And even with the staggered times, because again, Arsene Wenger was looking at everything with the format, and there will be an official decision on the group stage format in 2023. So you will have that from a time zone factor. However, the fact that you will have more teams involved in this World Cup is going to be a much bigger factor, because for this World Cup in 2022, you only had the 5. Whereas with the expansion to the 48 teams, you're going to have 9 African teams go to 2026. So I think that'll put a lot less pressure on Morocco, especially in qualifying, to go ahead and have an easier run in this tournament. Plus, if they do continue to stick with the 16 groups of 3, hey, all you would have to do is get a win and a draw on the group stage. You can set up for a good run. Or even in the different scenarios for the 12 groups of 4, where you would have third place teams to come in. Again, 3 points realistically, maybe 4, depending on if they have the 2 halves. And that's right around what Morocco did this tournament and being able to launch forward. So I'm not saying they'll have another Cinderella run or be like another Ghana or anybody in 2010, but African teams as a whole are really going to use this as a springboard going into the next tournament, because they've got the talent, they've got the teams, and now they know more of this experience and everything, especially with funding, incredibly beneficial to the African continent and to the African game as a whole.
Okay, so I kind of see what you're saying with that, but I'm going to disagree here. And the reason I'm going to disagree is I think setting up a higher team volume sets up greater expectations for these countries to do more. And I would argue that the performance by Morocco in this World Cup actually puts higher expectations on the continent as a whole, in that, okay, so we've got to this next step now after not having previously been past the quarterfinals. How long until we're in a final? How long until we're raising a World Cup?
And I do get that. At the same time, I'm thinking as far as like with the teams, look at the teams that just missed out. Yes, you had Senegal qualifying, but at the expense of Egypt. Imagine how if you have both of those teams, especially from your northern part of your continent, your Moroccos, your Egypts, and even to a lesser extent now that they faded off, your Ghana, Nigeria, your traditional African powers, to where it's like, all right, it's a setup to now where you can all go ahead and get in. And then you get to your point of there being more full throttle. But I think the CAF is going to temper that a bit by saying, all right, you only had the 5 teams, but look at what one did. If we get our 8, 9 teams, maybe have 2 of them get to the quarterfinals or what have you, see what happens from there. Having that rising tide lifting all boats.
I think a lot of that's going to depend on where these teams end up grouped in the group stage as well, because won't the group staging be set up similar to like world rankings in determining the various pots?
Yes, and that'll also depend on how they do the group stage. If they do the 16 groups of 3, you're basically going to have one UEFA pot to where your European team in each group, then your other 2 pots with the teams being paired up in world rankings. If they do the 12 groups of 4, naturally, you will have the US, Mexico, and Canada in each of your designated 3 groups. Then you will have the rest of your pots and everything worked from there. So it could help, it could hurt.
I would argue the US in Group A, Canada in Group B, Mexico in Group C, based on the amount of games being played in each country.
Oh, yeah. And you could probably flip-flop Mexico and Canada, but definitely the U.S. being A1. That's pretty much guaranteed. And even then, the fact that none of those three nations are going to have to go through CONCACAF qualifying, that's another wrinkle if an African team were to be grouped in any of the host nation groups because, well, less tough of a road. And if you don't think CONCACAF is tough, you haven't been through the fires of seeing qualifying like I have.
See, I would say that it's a disadvantage to not have to qualify, though, because you're not having that kind of pressure put on you from an early circumstance.
Yeah, and this is my exact point. The fact that, all right, you're in, you have a different schedule, you don't have to go through those qualifying matches, you'll have to schedule friendlies and everything else. Different way to manage your team in that last year or two of the World Cup cycle. So, again, if an African team were to be paired with one of these teams, better for that African team having to go through whatever revamped qualifying is going on. So hopefully everything is organized in a better way. It's going to be a scary few months in that regard, but as far as the here and now, Atlas stars keep on shining. You have earned it. Celebrate, and yeah, one more win for the road.
I mean, even if they don't win here, there's nothing to hang their heads about their performance here at this particular World Cup.
Nothing at all.
Like, this is a case of, I think Morocco comes into this game with nothing to lose and everything to gain. Whereas I kind of feel like Croatia's in a no-win opportunity here, having finished second last year and failing to make it back to the final this year, despite having the opportunity to do so.
And with some of their key players aging, Croatia's like basically they're saying, all right, this match is going to help present us with a dynasty. And with a small nation like Croatia, look at what they've been through the past 25 years. And I will go all the way back to France in 98. Lost a semifinal to the host nation where they felt even then, had they beat France, Brazil was incredibly weak. They would have been world champions. A rematch with France in the final in 2018, like we talked about, one step away from being champions. And now this. So, dynasty, yes, but boy, that sets up future expectations in a whole different way.
Speaking of dynasties, let's move over to the championship game, shall we?
Let's.
And an opportunity to do something that has not been done in 70 years.
Funny that you mentioned that.
Your finale is France versus Argentina, and the team making history here is not Argentina.
Les Bleus Français are only the fifth defending champion to make the following World Cup final. Italy was the first in 34 on home soil, repeating in 38 in Paris. Brazil, with a 17-year-old Pele in Sweden in 58, they repeated in Chile in 62.
Excuse me, 60 years, not 70. My mistake for the bad math.
Argentina, 4 years on from the hand of God and their triumph in Mexico City in 86. They got to the final in 1990 in Italy, losing to West Germany. And as I just mentioned, Brazil, that famous penalty miss in the Rose Bowl of the U.S. in 94. They faced the home country at Le Stade de France in 98. Yes, you had a history that night with a French player being sent off in a final, as it would happen again about a decade and a half later.
Was that the headbutt?
No, that was in 06. 98, that was the first player, a French defender, to get sent off in that final. France still won 3-0. Zidane and Thierry Henry both scoring goals in that match.
Because was it Zidane that was sent off for the headbutt in 06?
Yep, against Marco Materazzi.
Yeah, Zunheit.
So a lot of pressure on France to go back to back.
Okay, but you could argue that the pressure is just as big in Argentina, and specifically one particular person for Argentina, in what is probably the international finale for maybe the greatest soccer player ever in Lionel Messi.
Oh, he's pretty much said after this he is done.
I mean, and the only reason I say maybe is because there are a couple other people that certain folks would argue, Pele being one of them, Cristiano Ronaldo being another. You could argue it's a battle of the two best players of this particular tournament in Messi versus Mbappe.
Mm-hmm. Especially what's going on in the Golden Boot race. I believe they're both tied at 5.
I think so. How many does Alvarez? Alvarez has to have like 4 himself at this point too. Especially having the brace against Croatia in the semifinals.
Okay, I'm pulling it up on FIFA's website. The race for the Golden Boots. Yep, I was right. Messi and Mbappe tied with 5. And as an interesting side note, when it comes to tiebreakers, Lionel Messi assist and then minutes played.
Oh, does Messi had that beautiful assist on the goal in the round of 16?
Yep, he has 3 assists for the tournament. Mbappe has 2.
Not the round of 16, the quarterfinals against the Netherlands, the first goal in the matchup against the Netherlands.
Yeah, so he has 3 assists, Mbappe only has 2. But if it does happen to go tied with assists, then Mbappe has the advantage. 477 minutes played versus 570. Alvarez, you were correct. He has 4, but no assists and 364 minutes played. So he would have to have a brace, and neither Messi nor Mbappe score for him to clinch the Golden Boot.
A brace at the minimum, perhaps even a hat trick.
Well, again, that's a brace if Messi and Mbappe.
But if they do score, then if they do, one of them does score, then he'd need a hattie.
Correct. That's a very rare feat. That's only happened once.
A hattie in the World Cup final.
Sir George Best, Wembley Stadium, 1966 against West Germany. 2 of those in extra time.
Were they chanting "It's coming home" back then?
That's pretty much where the song kind of... Well, no, because it didn't start until Euro 96, the "It's Coming Home" song. So this was 30 years before that. However, this was the era of Pickles the dog. Google about how the original Le Coupe Jules Rimet was lost, and it was actually found in a typically English fashion, typical English way. Pickles the dog sniffing out a package near a post box that happened to be the trophy.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting story.
Hold on. What's this I hear? A Netflix sports documentary? Pay us. Pay us. Okay. Yeah, no, there are a ton of interesting stories coming into this here. Can France go back to back? Can Messi finally win the big one?
Mm-hmm.
In what is pretty much guaranteed to be it for him internationally?
Yep.
Can this generation of French talent pick up a second one, such as not only just Mbappe, but somebody like Thibaut Courtois in the goal?
Hugo Lloris. Courtois, Belgium.
Oh, my mistake. No, Lloris, yeah, because Lloris and that's right, because he faced down Harry Kane, his teammate in England from Tottenham Hotspur.
Mm-hmm.
That is right. So many different stories that go into this final here. All right, so couple predictions. Messi does not score.
Okay.
Mbappe does not score. Alvarez does not score. I am making a very bold prediction here.
We have something for these. Continue.
Go ahead, get the graphic up. Argentina 1, France 0. The goal to Angel Di Maria. And what will most likely be it for him internationally as well. I think France is going to be paying so much attention to Messi that Di Maria is going to sneak in the back door and get the goal. Because if France is going to lose this game, they're not going to let Messi be the one to beat them. Now, that being said, if it happens off of the course of a penalty, then obviously Messi's going to take the penalty.
Mm-hmm.
But if the goal happens during the run of play, I don't think it's Messi. I think it's Di Maria. Argentina 1-0. Messi gets his trophy.
I have said so many times during the French run, we talk about Hugo Lloris. I've mentioned especially their big wingers and everyone up front. Guys like Giroud, guys like Mbappe, guys like Griezmann.
Olivier Giroud, the former Swansea player, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. I do remember him and the guy from, what was it? Sweden. Sigurdsson? Gylfi Sigurdsson?
Sounds about
Maybe
right.
Maybe not Sweden, but I remember him in. This was when I was with my ex because she was a huge Swansea fan.
Mm-hmm.
And they had Giroud, they had Sigurdsson, and they had Fabianski.
Yeah, Sigurdsson, Iceland, I believe, not Sweden, Iceland.
Iceland. Thank you. I knew it was one of the I knew it was one of the upper European nations.
Mm-hmm.
All right, continue.
I think that they're going to fall short as well. I, however, do think Mbappe scores, but I think when Mbappe scores, it's going to be a bit too late. Do I believe you about Messi and how the French are going to try to contain him? Yes. However, if we're going by goal scorers, Di Maria can get one. McAllister, he will get one, but Messi is going to have his Maradona moment. In the time since Diego Armando Maradona has passed away, eyes have been on Messi. Messi respects, understands, and everything the history of the game and wearing that number 10 shirt. Maradona will look down. He will smile. And especially with the pain and heartbreak that happened in extra time in Brazil, this will be it. Argentina 3, France 1. Messi says goodbye. Will finish off his club career, but he will cement the debate versus Ronaldo once and for all.
I would argue of the two of them, the biggest trophy currently belongs to Ronaldo. Having Portugal winning Euros.
Razor thin edge, because remember, Messi did win Copa America just last year.
But given the two of them, though, I would argue that the Euros, the UEFA European Championships, are probably the more prestigious of the two.
I kind of disagree, because just like how we talk about the Champions League and Copa Libertadores, Champions League on a club level, a bit more prestigious than Libertadores. when you talk about confederational championships, you could arguably, yes, with the expansion of the Euros, and especially the recent prestige in the past 20, 30 years, how it's been on a grand stage. If you're on any part of this part of the continent or this part of the world, you also tune into Copa America as well. This is exactly why Copa America and CONMEBOL said, all right, we're going to put up our tournament next to yours, UEFA, your move.
Unfortunately, some sad news to come out of this particular World Cup. However, do you have an image up ready to go here?
Give me one quick minute and I will.
And if you want to, we can volume down and cue the Boys to Men as well.
All that. That will be better. And
so we're talking football, soccer here, and American soccer fans, the name Grant Wahl is incredibly familiar. The voice of soccer for the American fan through the pages of Sports Illustrated over the years. I very specifically remember reading Grant Wahl when I had my Sports Illustrated subscription as a teenager. There you see a picture of Grant at the 2022 World Cup. During the quarterfinals, Argentina versus the Netherlands, Grant Wahl suffered a cardiac event. And unfortunately, Grant passed away that evening. An expedited autopsy has revealed that the Widowmaker, I believe they call it.
Oh, I don't think it was like specifically the Widowmaker. A little bit worse. Aortic aneurysm.
Which is the same thing that took John Ritter.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently the sac outside of the heart that the blood pumps through is what ruptured. And they were able to revive him briefly, but as I understand it, it's one of those ones that if it happens, it's pretty much curtains. So we will admit, I will admit that when the story first broke, and especially given the fact that Grant had made news over in Qatar earlier in the tournament when he was denied access to a stadium while wearing a rainbow flag T-shirt before getting clearance to enter the stadium through FIFA itself, that there were some that suspected foul play.
And it wasn't just you. I was amongst them as well. Knowing Qatar's history, everything with FIFA and everything leading up to it, that's what jumped to my mind first.
So, unfortunately, though, maybe not unfortunately, but we do find out that it was indeed natural causes that took Grant Wahl at, mid-40s, I think?
48. I mean, yes, you could say in a bit of a way, more of a relief that it was not foul play, but even more tragic that it happened like this. And the memorial that the networks put up at his desk where he's covering in extra time of that match, you could tell there was just very genuine heartbreak.
Unfortunately, Mr. Wahl is not the only person we have to discuss right now. Famed boxing referee turned reality court show host.
Hey now, George Mills Lane. That was a good show.
Mills Lane passed away earlier this week as well. I did not see a COD for Mills, however.
Natural causes.
Had to have been in his 80s.
Was he 85 or 95?
I think it was 85. I don't think he was in his 90s.
No, 85.
Yeah, because he was a boxing referee back in the 90s, which would have put him in his 50s then. I doubt they would have let him referee boxing in his 60s. I mean, some of those referees act like they're in their 60s watching a boxing match, but that's neither here nor there.
True. I mean, He was there for the infamous bite.
I was just about to say that the Mike Tyson or Vander Holyfield match that led to Tyson's license getting suspended for biting off a chunk of Evander Holyfield's ear. That's your referee right there for that particular contest, Mills Lane. Famed for his catchphrase at the start of the fight, said, "Let's get it out!" And then transitioned out of the ring into a career as a reality TV judge. In addition to stints on Celebrity Deathmatch as well. I believe he was the official referee for Celebrity Deathmatch.
He was indeed. Referee Mills Lane.
He ended up turning quite the career out of it. Talk about parlaying infamy into success.
And how he was able to get this judge show. He was a real-life judge in Nevada where he was refereeing a lot of his fights. And to tie back with the Grant Wall, yeah, everyone thought there was foul play involved, even his own brother, when he released the Instagram video.
To the families of Grant Wall and Mills Lane, our condolences and best thoughts are with you. To Grant Wall, thank you. Thank you for trying to teach a sport to an ignorant kid that thought he knew better. Thank you for putting soccer into my periphery in the pages of Sports Illustrated. Thank you for taking the time to pass the beautiful game on to so many here in the United States. To Mills Lane, go rest high upon that mountain, sir. Your time on earth is done. Gentlemen, I can think of no better way to close this than this. As they used to say on Celebrity Deathmatch, good fight.
Good night.
Rest easy. Doesn't feel appropriate to do shills here.
No, we do thank you for listening. We thank you for watching. You know where to find us.
You know where to find us, and if you don't, check out some of the previous episodes. You know where to find them as well. For the DSDO, the anchorman, Erik Watkins. I'm the voice of reason. In this particular instance, at least. My name is Harry Broadhurst, thanking you for watching and or listening to the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report.
Sports in black and white.
Presentation of the Not a Network Podcast Network. We'll talk to you guys in 7 days.
See you there. And yes, to Toby, you have a good night as well. We'll catch everybody next week.
Thank you for listening to the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report. Sports in black and white. A presentation of the Not a Network Podcast Network. Available online via most major streaming services.